Hi, I'm Crystal. Today I'm going to talk a little bit about hosting a local stamp club. I'm going to show you the next project we're doing at our local stamp club, and I'm going to talk a little bit about participation and what it takes to prep for the meetings. So I hope you'll enjoy the project and think about starting your own local group. I think it's a really great group, and it really inspires me creatively. So our stamping group has been running about 5 years, and I would estimate that there's probably 800 women with full-time office jobs who could conceivably join this group. We have a mailing list of about 40 people, so that's about 5% participation, which I think is pretty good. And we normally have about anywhere from 12 to 20 people show up when we actually hold these meetings. We haven't had one in person in a while. We were on hard COVID lockdown, my family was, for the last 3 years because my father-in-law was very, very ill and undergoing chemotherapy. So we're going to start again this fall. And so I'm prepping for 20. I actually cut 24 kits, and I took the two that didn't turn out very good, and that's the demo and the sample. So I've got 22 ready to go, and that should be plenty. And the people who participate have a range of interests and a range of backgrounds, and so I've found that the stamping is usually easier for them if I use wood mount stamps, and I think it's more fun if they get to do some stamping and punching and assembling. Now this is the pillow box. I've got one in white where I marked all of the score lines so you could see them on camera. And so you want to fold the score lines a little bit before you start assembling the pillow box. And the easiest way to reinforce the score lines is to take a mechanical pencil or a ballpoint pen, retract the lead or the point, and just run that along your score line. And so here I'm just reinforcing the oval ends of the pillow box, and it's just hard to see on the actual pillow box because I haven't marked over the edges in black. Now the straight edge is very easy because you can take that to the edge of the table and just fold it against the edge of the table, and you get a nice straight line. It's those oval ends that are a little bit harder, and that's where the point of the mechanical pencil or the ballpoint pen with the lead or ink retracted will help you to just reinforce that score line. Once you've reinforced the score line on both halves, then you're going to put glue or double-sided tape on both flaps. And so for this video I'm using double-sided tape just in the interest of time. Glue will work perfectly well. The only the only thing to keep in mind is that if you use glue on the flaps, you want to let the glue dry completely before you start trying to do the end of the pillow box, because if the glue is still damp, the pillow box will just fall apart. So with the double-sided tape I don't have to wait, but with the glue you would want to glue the flaps and then wait for it to dry. Now these pillow boxes are not large, but they are big enough to hold, a pair of earrings or a couple of pieces of candy, or I don't know, movie tickets or something like that. So once you've got the glue applied or the double-sided tape applied, the flaps are going to go on the inside, and you just want to line up your edges very carefully and then press them in place. And that's really all there is to assembling the pillow box. Reinforcing the score lines is just going to make that so much easier. It is easier if your stamping or your pattern paper doesn't have a particular direction, because of course the sides have to go opposite directions. So this is probably the most complicated part of the project for today, is assembling the pillow box. Everything else is pretty straightforward. The stamping is pretty straightforward. The punching is pretty straightforward. And I have really enjoyed the stamping group quite a bit. We have a good group of people. And like I said, we've got about 5% of the eligible workers probably on our mailing list, and probably 2.5% who turn out to any one meeting, which I think is great participation. Normally these local stamping groups are headed by somebody who's selling something, like a Stampin' Up! Rep or Close to My Heart rep, and I think that's because the prep can be pretty intensive. So I enjoy working with paper and prepping for these meetings, but the prep for this, beginning to end, took about 7 hours. And that's for just 24 kits, right? A demo, a sample, and 22 for the meeting. So you have to be prepared, and you really have to have a couple of people who are really enthusiastic about this in order to sustain a group over time and actually have people come to the meetings and have people willing to prep for the meetings, because it has eaten up an entire day of my weekend to do the prep for this. I mean, I love die cutting and I love picking out stamps and all that stuff, but you do have to be enthusiastic. So just keep that in mind. But I find the camaraderie and the process of making the projects with people really enjoyable, and they always surprise me. So I have put together a sample of the way I think this project should look, but I'm going to bring these stamps and these pieces, these kits, to the meeting, and people will put it together in ways that I did not anticipate and which look fabulous. So I think that's one of the most exciting things about being in a crafting group, is seeing what other people will do with the same materials, because they have, everybody has such creativity and they just have a different perspective. And so getting together and seeing what everyone will do is really the most fun part of this. And of course, people have different craft backgrounds, and so getting together with people who are Cricut enthusiasts, or people who are washi tape enthusiasts, or people who enjoy stamping more, people who enjoy scrapbooking more, it just gives you a different feel for what the different craft backgrounds kind of bring to the table. So I think that is very worthwhile. So the die cutting, of course, went on and on and on and on. I didn't want to do too much die cutting in this project because we did so many die cut projects during the time when I was unable to go to in-person meetings. So I wanted to have a little bit more stamping this time. We've done some fun stamping projects in the past, though, and also some fun scrapbook projects. Now, when I put the kits together, this particular time I did use zip-top bags. So these are sandwich bags, and sandwich bags are big enough to hold a blank envelope and card. But a lot of and I'm using the sandwich bags because there's a color selection. So since the pattern paper is a little bit different, some of it's a little bit more pink, some a little bit more purple, some a little bit more blue. I wanted people to be able to see what was in the kits. But if there's not so much color variation, normally I would pack the kits in a paper envelope. So just over time, for whatever reason, I had built up a supply of envelopes that were odd sizes, not A2, not standard A2 like I would use for a card. And so the paper envelopes are a good way to pack the kits when they're meant for 5x7 cards, for example. Everything will fit inside quite nicely. But where there's a color selection, you kind of need to be able to see the color in order to pick which kit you want if you're attending in person. Of course, the people who can't make the meeting, who are going to get their supplies in the mail and maybe watch this video for the instructions on how to put together the billet box, they're going to get the leftovers. That's just how it works. So when I do use the blank cards and envelopes, I order those in bulk from the paper mill store. They have really good prices, but you do have to be willing to sign on for several hundred cards at a time. And usually the free shipping comes when you're ordering 1,000 cards. So you've got to have a real use for the bulk supplies to make that worthwhile. So in assembling this kit, I just went through and put all the cards and envelopes into the sandwich bags, and then I dealt out the layers for the card front and the little bookmark strips and the tags and the pillow boxes, so that I didn't have clashing colors and I didn't have something too much the same. So since people are going to remix this kit in ways that I don't anticipate, I want to make sure that the pillow box and the card front and the tags are not all the same color. If they're all green, there's not enough contrast, and so you want a piece that's green, a piece that's blue, a piece that's pink, so that you get a little bit more variation and stuff will show up better. But dealing it out like this gives you a chance to make sure everything kind of goes together. And since I started with a pattern paper pad where the tones went together, I think that worked out quite well. So paper pads are definitely your friend when you're trying to put together a kit like this, because somebody's done some of the color matching work for you. Otherwise, trying to match the solid cardstock and so forth can be difficult. But this was a lot of fun to put together, and I hope my in-person group enjoys it, and I hope you've enjoyed watching it, and I hope you'll try a local stamping group if you are in a situation to do that. So thank you for joining me today, and I will see you next time.